Anti-Afro Svengalis, I'm coming on here to address an issue that really does need some clarification. Now, this has to do with Photon DNA. Had a live stream, and I'm frankly confused, Photon. I got to tell you straight out. Tell me how it would sound if I came up and I started to criticize your video production skills, not the content, but the way you put videos together, the way you run live streams, your video rap mixing capabilities. I would find it very odd if you got upset about me criticizing those skills because I don't have any of those skills. You see what I do on this channel, it's, I would say, basic slash elementary. I would expect you to laugh if I criticized you in those areas. Same thing goes with the panelists you brought up on your live stream. I have the same reaction. Someone who doesn't know anything about my profession in any respect, what would be the reason that the comments about my professional competency would upset me? Those were your words. You said that I was upset. I'm not understanding. It sounds just as ridiculous as you being upset if I criticize your video production, live streaming skills, and all that, which you're obviously highly skilled at. So you should consider it a joke if I ever came up and criticized you in those skill areas. That is the same position I assumed with the panelists that you brought up. But let's square something away. I'm not under the impression, and if I was, so what? It's really none of my business whether you give that person the ability to just come up on your panel. What I do know for a fact, several people have complained, Photon, that you keep them backstage for 30, 40 minutes. You can do that. You can decide not to bring somebody up. But I thought it was very interesting how this person came right up on your panel. So please don't make it appear as if the person just barged into your live stream and you had no control. You have the control. Again, what the person says about me is not relevant when it comes to my professional competency. But I absolutely do feel obligated in one respect. When ignorance takes center stage about my profession, I feel an obligation to set the record straight. And that's what I did for the edification of others that were listening. And if you were interested, you as well. I kind of question whether you were really interested in the truth. It just seemed that you were more interested in the drama. And you know what? That's good. This is what YouTube's about. Get drama going on your page. But if you really want to know what I was upset about, I'll tell you what I'm upset about. I'll be upfront with you what I'm upset about. This is what I'm upset about here on the screen, that the person you brought up on your panel indulges in essentially, if not all, most of what you see here on the screen. Since everybody's so willing to give their opinions all over the place, I'm giving you mine. I thought it was appalling. I thought it was offensive. And it was shocking. You knowing this person engages in these behaviors, that you would even think about bringing a person like that up on your panel to give you advice about your child. Now, I'm not going to get into anything you said about your child. I'm not going to mention the child's age, except to say, yes, your child's a minor, the child you were referring to. That was the appalling part. And please kick off any thought of I was going to offer. I don't do that here on YouTube. I don't practice in any respect, any part of my profession. I keep it totally separate, except if I'm giving somebody like a referral or I'm clarifying something. But I don't do any sort of practice here on YouTube. Knowing that a person that engages in this type of conduct unprovoked, on her own volition, I thought it was just frankly horrifying that you would even think a person like this could give you any counsel about your child. Now, the fact that this person says that she has, what, a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old daughter, plus a son, she brought this to light. It's even more frightening. I wanted to make very clear, how a parent conducts him or herself on social media is critical. How a parent conducts him or herself at home is critical. How a parent conducts him or herself in the community is critical. The best thing a parent can do for their children is to be a positive role model. And I made it very clear this person is not a positive role model. You cannot reconcile all of the vicious and vile abuse that this person has engaged in, and the person can come up here and act like they're in a position to give anybody any sound guidance or advice when it comes to children. There is no way anybody's going to convince me that someone who's going to come up here on YouTube, in addition to having absolutely no restraint when it comes to engaging in these discriminatory attacks, in addition to utilizing violence as a first line of conflict resolution, which this person has done many times, that this person can suddenly metamorphosize into someone who should be giving you advice about children. I am making that very clear. That is the most disgusting and offensive aspect of this scenario. Just like me judging you on your video production skills. You should be laughing me right off of YouTube if I ever tried to do that. And as you've seen, I've never tried to do that. That is the offensive part about the whole situation. And the person came into the Umar Johnson sector. How soon we forget? Came here on the take. Targeted conscious energy. She saw the conscious energy was essentially in every single space. He's one of the few people who can move around in different spaces and garner the respect that he has. You don't have to agree with everything that conscious energy says and does, but you can't deny he's everywhere in these YouTube streets and he's respected. She saw that. He was a prime opportunity to run a scam on. And nobody can protect themselves 100% from somebody trying to run a scam on them. But that's what she did. Pretended that she sent him $820 by accident. He was damned if he did, and he's damned if he didn't. That's how she got into the Umar Johnson sector, people looking at her and giving her attention. So what did she do after that? She went on and did an interview with Remix. That was a spectacle in many respects, parading around her home in a mini skirt, just really making it clear that she wanted everybody to look and listen to her. She wanted to have a space, a part in the Umar Johnson sector. And I remember a lot of what she said during that interview, and I am damn sure she doesn't think that people remember what she said. And there have been so many contradictions between what she said during that interview and what she's saying now. So many different things. One thing I'm going to point out, which is related to her horrendous, horrific, abominable role modeling as a parent, is she stated that one of the fathers of her children is in prison. I don't know anything about the person, so I'm not going to pass a judgment on that person. And then she stated later on that she was with someone who murdered someone. I'm still not going to judge that person. I don't know anything about the person's case, but I'll say this. If the person ever paroled out of prison, her home would not be appropriate. If a parole officer knew, if the prison system knew that the man was going to parole to her home and knew about her YouTube content, they would disallow that. Why? Because she has a propensity to threaten violence and talk about beating up people, threatening people in response to conflicts that have nothing to do with violence. Nobody has threatened her. She has come up and she starts threatening people with violence. I'm going to punch you in the mouth. I'm going to kick your ass. Come here to DC to meet me. No prison parole board is going to allow that person to parole into that home. So that is a concern. Poor role modeling when you initiate attacks on people and utilize violence as the first line of defense. This is the problem. The problem, again, is not with this person. Do you think I'm going to give a hoot about this person's opinion about me who has no self-control and lies until the cows come home? So let's move on to after the interview with Remix. What happened? It didn't get her what she needed. She wanted a solid position in the Umar Johnson sector for people to look at her, to pay attention to her, to mention her all over the place. She was going on all these panels. Then she decides she's going to go and get on a hyena Yelp with Umar Johnson and advertise that by prancing around her home again, or apartment, whatever she has, talking about what she's going to do with Umar Johnson, all of that. A grand production. It fell flat. Umar didn't give her any attention. Okay, so now I need another strategy. What can I do? So she comes to you, Photon. She sees that you have 2 feet and 2 hands in the Umar Johnson sector, and people are coming to your channel. So she comes to your channel and says she's a rap musician. She knows how to rap because she knows you're into video production. She knows somewhat about your past, like we do, like you have shared with us. And what does she do? She wants to get with you so you can put her in a high profile position. She comes to your channel. That didn't work out the way she wanted it to. She wasn't self-launching like she wanted. That fell flat. Let's not neglect to mention, while this is all going on, she's moving around to these different spaces, picking fights with different people. She comes after Stargate and threatens to beat her up. And she's also taking pot shots at me and Rev G, but we're primarily ignoring her. We see what she's doing. We're just not responding to anything that she's saying. She continues on trying to find some way to get her feet and hands in the high profile position in the Umar Johnson sector. Enter Conscious TV by way of an announced interview he has scheduled with Gerald, Rev G. Oh my goodness. This is when she decides to amp up her attacks on Gerald from every which way, because now she sees that Rev G was on this interview and people are talking about it. A lot of different things happen as a result of the Conscious TV interview. It exploded all over that Umar Johnson sector. She starts to amp up her attacks on Gerald. That's what she did. She is a leech. She is a blood-sucking leech who sees people who are popping, and they're not even trying to pop. It's just a freaking interview. And she went all over the place, going everywhere. Very vicious and vile attacks, unprovoked, uninitiated, vile religious attacks, homophobic attacks on an heterosexual man. If you can explain to me what sense does it make to gay bash a heterosexual man because he says he's an ally for the LGBTQ plus community. She went all out with her vicious attacks against Gerald. Let's stop here for a second. Do you think this is a positive role model for a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old? Or a positive role model for children in general? Or a positive role modeling as a parent? Why don't you answer that question? I'm not crazy about the phrase clout chasing, but you had all these subjects, this person included, claiming they weren't clout chasing, that they already knew who Conscious TV was, that they've been on Conscious TV's page. Okay, all well and good, but you weren't noticed. You were not noticed. Nobody cared to interview you or talk to you until you started throwing yourself into the mix after Gerald and Conscious TV had that interview. Or you ran up on panels after that interview wanting to be seen and heard while you claimed you were already popping with Conscious TV. Okay, whatever the hell, who cares? The point I'm trying to make is she was trying to find a way to be seen and heard and be a permanent, high-profile fixture in the Umar Johnson sector. That's the bottom line. She didn't care. She didn't give a damn who the hell she lied about. She didn't care what she had to do to get there, threatening people, lying on people, attacking people. None of it mattered. She just needed to be seen and heard. Then what did she do? Here comes breaking the culture of silence. And what does this person do? She slides up with breaking the culture of silence, trying to jump in her issues with let me see your handcuffs, jumping on panels. And then now, here go the threats again. She said she was going to punch breaking the culture of silence out, going to beat her up. So breaking the culture of silence challenges her to a supervised boxing match. Not a street fight, because both people are going to be arrested if you engage in an organized street fight. We all know that. That was nothing but a hype because she had no intention of doing it. Then she starts attacking breaking the culture of silence. Threatens to punch her in the mouth. Starts talking about have your rich Jewish fiance finance this. I mean, please, people. If you haven't gotten the message by now, you never will. This person continues to be on the take. And while this is all going on, all these different strategies she's trying to use, she's steadily attacking Rev G with all this homophobic and these religious based attacks. She's saying shit about me. I pretty much ignored her. Every chance she got, she mentioned my name. I did a couple little small videos about her, but she kept escalating. And how she escalates, she will bring up issues on this list. This person brought up during, I don't even remember what the topic was, but it certainly wasn't the issue of sex in someone's sex life that I brought up. She brought that up and started making these vulgar, these graphic, descriptive comments about me and who I'm screwing, if I'm a lesbian. I mean, it went on and on forever. It's basically harassment. I'm not the only one she did this to. And this is a positive role model. If you so choose to trust someone like this, to bring them up on your panel and to allow them to give you advice about your minor child, that is your choice. I know what we're dealing with here. Every issue she claims somebody has, she brings it up. She initiates it. Let me make it clear. A person who is obsessed with sex and vulgarity in relation to sex, threatening people with violence, homophobia, people's age, culture attacking, this person has the problem. The person is a bigot. And a bigot is a horrible role model for children. A bigot is a horrible role model for women's protection. All of these issues have everything to do with domestic violence. All of these issues are used to perpetrate domestic violence. So again, the problem is this person's bigotry. The problem is this person's inclination to jump up and start attacking people based on personal characteristics, when personal characteristics were not even in the mix. So let me make sure everybody has it down. This is a transposing person who goes about bringing up all of these issues on her own to attack people. And when somebody responds to her, she tries to say that you have the problem. Honey, that is the oldest trick in the book. Let me make it very clear about who has the problem. The person who has the problem is you. And if I will go ahead and say multiple problems, those are your problems that you will not transpose onto me. As for you, Photon, you are not going to dissuade me from doing what I feel I need to do to protect my civil and human rights. It is of no consequence whether you agree, whether this person agrees, whether no one else agrees. I have stated it once. I will continue to state. I will show you by example, positive example. I will not be the content for any of your channels that violates my rights. I will take whatever action I need to take. This person is not going to come on here on YouTube with all of her problems and try to transpose them onto me as a way of trying to what? Shame me out of my rights? Threaten me out of my rights? Harass me out of my rights? You will never, ever accomplish the task that you are seeking. I will do whatever I need to do to protect myself. If you don't like YouTube and people responding to your attacks with legal action, maybe you need to get off YouTube, because you sure as hell aren't going to stop me from moving forward with my plans. And you need to know I'm not the only person that is taking serious exception to your harassing conduct. And if you were so proud of what you're doing, if you think you're such a great parent and a role model, why don't you take your videos over to your children's school and play them? You are quick to take down the videos because you know what you are doing is wrong. There has to be a clear distinction. Keep in mind that acts that are immoral, illegal, dangerous, abusive, offensive, participating in those actions actually can bring about gratification for some people. It's an issue, but this is what we have going on here. This person is getting off on doing these things. The instant gratification she is getting by folks coming to her channel and watching and hearing her do these things, she gets some sort of gratification from it, or she wouldn't be doing it. She enjoys it, or she wouldn't be doing it. She has conditioned herself to be abusive towards others, and gets pleasure out of it. So you want me to tell you all that this is a positive role model? This is a positive parental role model? A person who is respected in her community, who comes onto YouTube and engages in this conduct? And I want to make it very clear. Her conduct is unprovoked. She is not responding to people attacking her. She is the aggressor when it comes to these types of attacks. Let's make sure that is unequivocally clear. There is something else I wanted to point out about what this person does that is quite disturbing. This person has an obsessive focus on class and money and position in society, constant references to money, position, and wealth. Now, she has to be mentioning this quite often because the very few clips that I get or a live stream I get and I'm clicking through it, this is what she's talking about. I find it very odd that while no one here is obligated to give specific details about your family, about your finances. Most people do not. But this person seems to be going through some sort of change. All of a sudden, she's high sedity. All of a sudden, her children are in these exclusive schools learning Spanish at age 3. And it's interesting how she continues to disclose more based on what she hears from someone else, particularly breaking the culture of silence. Her life now seems essentially identical. She seems to have all these skills that breaking the culture of silence has. She seems to have her children on the same level in terms of speaking languages. But isn't this quite interesting how she claims that her child, when he or she was 3 years old, was learning Spanish in school? Well, it is bizarre. How can that be when she sat up here and posted how many videos denigrating people of Mexican heritage, who, by the way, do speak Spanish? It's just incongruent, people. This person comes up on YouTube to try to present herself in a manner that she isn't. And her focus on family issues. That's your family, but she's trying to transpose her family situation onto me. I don't have a stepfather. There's nothing wrong with having a stepfather. There's nothing wrong with a blended family, but that's not my experience. We were raised with our parents. Our mother and our father were together and raised us. Whether someone is in a divorced household, a blended household, a step-parent household, that doesn't matter. What matters is your value system. And very clearly, we have two very different upbringings. We were not raised to be silent while people pound upon us, abuse us, harass us, and threaten us. You better open up your mouth and start talking if you need something. And if anyone is going to be helping you, it is going to be us, your parents, your grandpa, your uncles, your aunts. That's my upbringing. Don't transpose your upbringing onto me, because your upbringing clearly tells you it's okay to initiate attacks on people based on this protected class status. Well, I was brought up with the mindset that was instilled. You don't ever want to replicate what our ancestors went through. You don't want to ever perpetrate that upon other people. You clearly weren't raised in this manner. So we will never see eye to eye on anything. So what I think you need to take the best advice I could give you, and you need to stop attacking people based on their protected class status. And I will point you to Breaking the Culture of Silence, who was much quicker on the draw than I am when it comes to defending her rights. You continue to attack her. You're calling her, like now you're calling her a dog. You're referring to her snout. You're up here picking apart her skin tone, her racial characteristics. You've got a serious problem. The problem is yours. You are going to learn the hard way what it feels like to be reached out and touched with the legal system in a way you probably never have been. I refuse to believe this is a person who runs around bragging about how big and bad she is. She says she's in DC. She wouldn't be alive today if she walked onto the street and was acting the way she acts online. I can guarantee you that, people. This is an act, and it's an act not going to be worth the audience applaud and $20 cash apps. So my parting words, I'm not going to go back and forth with this person. Breaking the Culture is not going to go back and forth with you. You're going to be introduced to a very rude awakening. I wanted to slightly modify a position that I had. I stated if people thought that attacking others based on protected class criteria was so harmless, why not do that with each other who you make an agreement with? Actually, that's a bad idea. It's a serious issue. And I know it's a bad idea. I was being facetious and sarcastic, but I wanted to make sure I come back and state attacking people based on protected class criteria is 100% amoral and it's illegal. It should not be done. If you feel you can't help yourself and you must engage in this conduct, then you have to realize that you run the risk of the consequences associated with this conduct. It is extremely disturbing to think that people don't feel they can enjoy YouTube or social media unless they're engaging in these types of behaviors. I want to point out another hypocrisy element of this. We've seen people on YouTube, white folks, calling people niggers. They're off the job, they're not working. And when this becomes, quote, viral, the race is on to find out where this person works. What is the difference? You feel only a white person should be held accountable for race attacking conduct, but you don't think because it's black on black shouldn't be held accountable and should be kept on YouTube. You really think that little of yourself. You have to think that little of yourself and that low of yourself. But hold it. Do you really? Because when people perpetrate that conduct on you, you have a reaction. You start going off. You start threatening people. You do not like that conduct. With people crying up here in mirrors, going around and trying to get other people to attack them because people have race attacked them. Other people have said things to them that are in a protected class criteria. But when you do it, you expect the recipients of your conduct to do nothing. You need to get that together. You need to get that straight. You know what that tells me? That tells me you're into the self gratification and to hell with everybody else. This is what this type of behavior represents. To insist on engaging in this type of conduct where you have to threaten and harass people, you will suffer the consequences. And it's going to happen when you least expect it. Let me explain the Cynthia G model. A couple of years back when Tariq Nasheed was particularly driving hard on Cynthia G, they were in this battle. He's getting everybody to attack her. All they were talking about is her hair weave and makeup. So what Cynthia G did on one of her live streams, she says, so you're complaining about my 16-inch and my 18-inch weaves. Really, when the show is over, I'm going to get with my person who orders my beauty products and I'm going to order me some 24-inch. So the more you complain about my weaves, the longer they're going to get. It's the same attitude I have towards my rights. The more you complain about my rights, the more you try to harass me and intimidate me out of exercising my rights, the stronger I'm going to get in moving forward with insisting my rights are protected within the confines of the law. So anybody that's up here chastising me or anybody else about their rights, that tells me you only want people to attack me and others for fodder and for content. And that's bullshit. And I'll never go along with that. Just like Cynthia G, the more you complain about my rights, the harder I'm going to drive to make sure my rights are protected. This is all I have to say about this person. I'm not going to deal with this person online anymore. This is continuing offline. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a shit whether you like it. I'm not looking to curry favor with you. If you insist on me and other people being fodder to your content, you are inhumane and you're not worth addressing either. That means you're no better than this person. In the meantime, people, you know the drill. Buyer beware.